Today I have this 2016 Lexus GX460, going to be doing a full oil change on it. I have a lift. On this vehicle you actually don't need a lift. There's enough room underneath the car. You can slide under. Most of the work you can get to from right under here. There's a skid plate that you have to unbolt, and then the drain plug is just back behind that for the oil. So if you have a garage, a flat area, you can do this no problem. All right, once you're under the vehicle, the next thing you have to do is undo this skid plate bolts. There's, see if you can see them there. There's one there, one there, one there, one there. So 4 bolts, 12 millimeter, and then just come down a little bit lower. And I got to take these 2 bolts off. The oil drain pan is under this. Behind that, that's the transmission drain pan. Do not mess with that. So let's go ahead and take these bolts off. They don't need to be tight. If you tighten them up too much, they can seize. You don't need a power ratchet. If you have one, it just makes things better. Alright, once you have this skid plate, all the bolts, 4 bolts out, you don't even need to undo these bolts that are on this plastic little air dam right here, because this hangs down on some little hangers. And you can see right under here, there's your oil filter. So just let this kind of hang down. And you can take it off if you want, but I don't, because I'm just so used to doing it. I just let it hang. All right, once you have that skid plate down, you can see the oil filter. And I'll talk about that oil filter wrench shortly. But first, we want to come back down to here. I actually don't even undo bolt. I just loosen this bolt and I just slide this back, rotate it over. And then I already loosened the bolt for the oil. If the engine oil is hot, you want to wear gloves or be very careful. Let's see. So you can use an oil pan. I like to use a bucket, 2.5 gallon bucket or a 5 gallon bucket. It seems to stop with the splashing all over the floor. So undo that, and of course I missed the bucket, but get it in the bucket, let that drain out, hold on to that oil plug. Once that's done draining, it's just to a drip. I go ahead and put the oil drain bolt back in, and then you're going to want to tighten that to the proper specifications, and you let it drain. It probably took about 5 minutes. I let it drain. Once you tighten that up to proper specifications, torque, then close that back up. All right, once you're done draining the oil, have the oil drain plug back in, the cover back on, the bolts and the drain plug torqued up to proper specs. Then when it comes time to come up and do the oil filter, the oil filter cap needs a special cap socket or a wrench, and it looks like this. And then your socket wrench just goes right on this. You can buy these probably just off Amazon, and they might only be about $15 or $20. I do this quite a bit, so it's worth the investment. So with these grooves, they come up and they fit. Hopefully you can see this okay. It fits over the groove. If it doesn't fit snug, you got to turn it to the next groove and get that to fit. And you can see that right there. Then you're going to get your socket wrench, and just slowly undo that. Now I'm just going to undo that until it gets so I can move it easily, but not take it all the way out, because oil is going to come out of there. And there we go. So now I could probably a little further. I can hand turn that in just a minute. So I want to put an oil pan underneath that so I don't get oil everywhere. All right, now that it's loose, I have an oil catch pan underneath. Let's get over here. Hope you can see this. And I'm gonna hand do it. It'll start to drip. And just undo it slowly. Let it drip out. And then you won't make a mess. It's always nice when you can do an oil change and not have a puddle of oil all over your garage floor. That's what everybody should strive for. All right, so just slow little turns. It's going to start to get loose. Almost out. And then just give it a little pull. There's a rubber O-ring there, and that just needs to be pulled a little bit to get it loose. And I'm just letting oil drain out of here. And this is what the oil housing cap and the filter looks like. Now that I have the oil housing cover off, I usually change this while I'm under the car, but I brought it over to the bench so everybody can see. What you want to do is, oil filter sits in it. You want to remove that. And you'll see that you have this filter inside support right there. You want to make sure you don't wreck that or pull anything out. Just take a look at it, make sure it's still clipped in well. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is take a little hook like this, and you want to hook this rubber seal right there and take it off. Now there's a little bit of oil and build up right around here, so go ahead and take a rag and clean that up. All right, make sure you don't get any debris or tear off any shop towels or rags that get stuck in here at all. Get it fairly clean. I don't clean it with brake fluid because I think brake fluid is a little hard on plastic, and over time it could cause this to crack because it'll make it brittle. Then new oil filter. This is a genuine Toyota part. These are only, I think, about $750, $850. You might as well get the genuine thing for the GX460. There is the part number right there. And for that price, get the real deal. Don't go on the Amazon and buy some crap. All right, so take that, just slide it nicely over this, and be gentle. If it's too hard to push on, take it easy. Then you want to make sure it seats. Now when you take the old one off, you can look at this, make sure this actually sits the same, that it goes all the way down and in, and you'll feel it sit. You don't want to have it not all the way down and then put it back in the car and not sit properly. So check this one before you put the new one on to make sure it sits properly. Now, new ring comes in the bag. Take that. Slide it right over, make sure it goes back into the same groove. And then before you install this, take some fresh oil and just lubricate around this ring right here. Put a little oil on your finger and just lubricate around there before you put this in. Make sure there's no dirt or any other foreign objects on this. You do not want to get dirt into your oil system of your car. All right, let's head back over and put it in. One thing I should also mention, if you actually buy a OEM filter, the box gives you nice little descriptions, tells you about the O-ring, make sure it's seated in the right groove, so that's helpful. And then on the actual other side, it has some step-by-step how to unscrew it and redo the cap, and even on the lid it actually has some instruction right there as well. And then on the cap of the actual oil filter, it's going to give the torque, which I believe is 25 Newton meters. And it's, now that we have the oil filter newly replaced into the housing cap, come back to the housing, I have that all wiped out and cleaned up. We're going to take the new filter, have the gasket lubed up, and slide that in. You can see the centerpiece in there that slides into there. And so if it doesn't go in easy, I don't force it. It should just slide in and get seated there, and then easily start to screw by hand in there until it gets hand tight. Once that gets hand tight, now this should tighten up nice and smoothly. It shouldn't really take a lot of force until the cap surface meets the housing surface. If there's a big huge gap there, the filter may have gotten jammed or wasn't seated properly. Then what I'm going to do is get my torque wrench, torque this to what it says, 25 Newton meters. It's not foot-pounds. Foot-pounds is way too much. You don't want to crack the housing. Now that the filter's in, just have to put the skid plate back up. Just push that back into place. Line up the hole. And the skid plate is back up. Now, one thing I mentioned about when you put it back up, these 4 bolts that are here, there, oh, there, and there. You don't want to tighten them up too much. And in fact, there's a little bit of rust buildup there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, this is a little bit of aluminum anti-seize lubricant, and this is a pretty used tube here, but you can buy this. It's not too expensive. So what you want to do is just put a little bit on there You don't need a lot. And then just coat it, rub it around like that. And then when that goes onto the threads, that's just going to stop it from rusting up and seizing up, because these things will break easy. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other 3 in here with some of this anti-seize on, and then we have to put the oil back in the car. Now's the time to put some oil in the vehicle. Best thing to do, you can Google it, how much oil, what type of oil, or you can look in the Lexus manual and you know that it's not wrong. So we turn over here to page 564. We take a look at this. Gives our engine type. This came with the car. Everybody has one in their car unless it's been lost. Fuel type tells you what to use right down there. Oil type, and it says, if you can see that, with filter, without filter change. We did a filter change. That needs 8.2 quarts of oil, and it'll even tell you over on the other page what type of oil, 020, and I always use synthetic. Well, let's go ahead. Oil fill cap right over here in the engine. If we're looking at the engine, it's right there. And again, on top of the fill cap, it has what type of oil to use, 020. Get a nice clean funnel, and we're going to try not to spill any. I always use a funnel, even though I think I'm really good, because there's nothing worse than having oil dripping all over your engine. It burns, it collects dirt, it just looks terrible. This car is a 2016, and this engine is mint. It's got a little dust on it. Alright, so just slowly pour it in. Some cars can overflow if you pour it in too fast. Alright, so this is 8.2 quarts it takes. This is 5 quarts total. Going to pour the whole thing in. I'm just going to finish filling this up. While the oil's draining out of the container down into the engine, could you do me a favor? Go down, hit the subscribe button, even the like button. I got more videos coming out. I've got some car builds I'm doing, motorcycle builds, and if there's more videos that you'd be interested in, just comment, see what I can do. Thanks for watching. So I topped it up with 8 quarts of oil, between 8 and 8.2. Don't overfill it. A little bit less is okay. Put the cap back on. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the vehicle, let it run for a few minutes, and then check the dipstick, which is over here, to make sure the oil is the correct height on the dipstick. After we've run the car and got the oil moving through the filter and whatnot, we're going to check on the dipstick where it is. We want to make sure it's between those 2 points right there, those 2 dots. If it's low, put another half a quart in, retest it after you run the car. Don't drive your car around until you know for sure that oil level is up to that upper part. Don't go above it, and go in between those 2 points. Now that you've changed the oil on your Lexus GX460 for 2010 through 2019 vehicles, this is how you reset the maintenance light. So you want to find, of course, your start button right there. Over here, the odometer trip button right there. You're going to keep your foot off the brake, press the start button once, press it a second time. Your screen will light up. See, it's checking maintenance. In this case, it is going to tell me maintenance required. And you can see that down low it's on trip A. And if it wasn't on trip A, it was on odometer like that, you're going to cycle it back to trip A, so it says trip A with the mileage. Now go ahead and just hit your start button one time. Everything turns back off. Keep your foot off the brake the whole time. Now what you're going to do is find the odometer trip button again. We're going to hold this down while we press the engine start button again twice. Keep the foot off the brake. And there you go. Keep your hand on the odometer button. Don't let it off. It's resetting. And there you go. Now that message went away, it's reset. You can let your finger off the odometer trip button and it's all done. Nothing left to do. And then just hit your start button again and turn the car off. Everything's set. It's all reset. If this was helpful, go down below, hit the subscribe button and the like button, and I really appreciate that. I'll have more videos, maintenance videos, different cars, hopefully coming soon.